Well, welcome back, boys and girls. I'm again so excited because I've got a wonderful book to share with you. It's Pecos Bill. Have you ever heard of old Pecos Bill? Oh, wonderful story. It's much like Paul Bunyan because it's a tall tale. It tells about a man who could do extraordinary things, and many times it's trying to explain things that we haven't quite figured out how to explain before. So I am so excited to share Pecos Bill by Stephen Kellogg. Back in the rugged pioneer days, when Pecos Bill was just a baby, his kinfolks decided that New England was becoming entirely too crowded, so they piled into covered wagons and they headed west. The clan considered settling in East Texas until Bill's mama noticed a homesteader putting up a shack about 50 miles away. Another crowded neighborhood, she grumbled. Let's push on. As they crossed the Pecos River, Bill threw out a fishing line. But when a Texas trout nibbled, Bill yanked overboard. He was towed far downstream and he would have drowned it for sure if an old coyote hadn't grabbed him. Her family adopted Bill and taught him the ways of the wild creatures. By the time Bill had outgrown his britches, he felt like a member of the old pack. He loved to romp with his coyote brothers, and he grew older. He sometimes played with the bighorn sheep. One day, a drifter named Chuck stumbled across Bill when he was taking a nap. He asked Bill what he meant by snoozing in the brush without his trousers. Bill tried to explain that he was a coyote. Horse feathers, said Chuck. You're a Texan just like me. Bill decided to give life as a Texan a try. He borrowed Chuck's extra clothes and peppered him with some questions. To tell you the truth, said Chuck, most Texans are flea-bitten outlaws, and the worst of them are in Hell's Gulch gang. But even they would be okay if you had become a rancher and herd the longhorns that wandered around hereabouts. Ranching sounded good to Bill, and he headed for Hell's Gulch, determined to be recruited by the gang. But Bill's plans were interrupted when he was ambushed by a giant rattlesnake. When Bill dodged the snake's fangs, it slapped its coils all around Bill. The snake squeezed hard, but Bill squeezed harder, and he didn't let up until every drop of poison was out of that reptile, leaving it skinny as a rope and mild as a goldfish. Then, before Bill could catch his breath, he was tackled by a critter that was part grizzly, part puma, part gorilla, and part tarantula. They wrestled up and down in the canyon and kicked up quite a dust storm before the monster finally became so dizzy it had to quit. No one had ever tangled with one of those two varmints and lived to tell the tale. So when Bill met up with the Hell's Gulch gang, they were thunderstruck. Who's the boss of this outfit? Bill asked. I was, mumbled Gunsmith, but now you is. Bill told the gang that he was going to turn every last one of them into respectable ranch hands. But then the men claimed that Texas cattle were much too ornery to ever be put up with for ranching. Bill had a sudden inspiration, and he approached a longhorn that was skulking nearby. Just as the bull whirled around to trample him, Bill snagged him with a rattlesnake and yanked him for all of his might. Cattle roping had just been invented. Bill scared the bull out of its skin, and with a blood-curdling coyote howl, "Arr!" the embarrassed creature hightailed it off to grow a new coat, while Bill cut the hide into strips and passed them out to the men to use as lassos. Then them cowboys and that cattle tangled in rough and tumbled hullabaloo that is remembered to this day as the first Western rodeo. When it ended, the game declared they would be cowboys forever, and they promised to help Bill round up every steer in Texas. Bill needed a horse to ride for the big roundup. "Well," said Chuck, "there's a wild stallion in the mountains that some folks call Lightning. Others think the name is more like Widowmaker, because no matter what you call him, he's the fastest, most beautiful horse in the world." Bill went off in search of Lightning. As soon as he saw him, Bill knew he had found the horse for him. Bill chased Lightning north to the Arctic Circle, and then south to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. Finally, he cornered the stallion and jumped onto his back. Lightning exploded from the canyon, leaping and bucking across 3 states. Then Bill began to sing in the language he had learned from his coyote family. He sang of his admiration for the stallion's strength and promised him a lifetime of partnership and devotion. When Bill was done singing, he offered the horse his freedom, but Lightning chose to follow him forever. When Pecos Bill and Lightning leading them, the cowboys whooped across the state of Texas, rounding up every last steer. But their high spirits collapsed when they were faced with the job of driving that enormous herd back and forth between the summer and the winter ranges. To silence their grumbling, Bill set up the Perpetual Motion Ranch on Pinnacle Peak, which was so high that the top remained in winter while spring and autumn turned to summer at its base. A team of prairie dogs helped Bill to fence off the mountains so that the cattle could wander through the seasons unattended. Bill's plans worked fine, except that Pinnacle Peak was so steep that the steers fell right off whenever there was a breeze. The men had to work harder than ever carrying the cattle back up that hill. Bill solved that problem by inventing steers with very short legs on one side of their bodies. Even in the windstorm, the cattle could stand securely on the slope as long as they kept their short legs on the uphill side. Now the men at Perpetual Motion Ranch had all kinds of free time, and Bill became known as the world's greatest cowboy. But the high point of Bill's life came when Slewfoot Sue passed by on the back of a catfish. Bill was instantly in love, and he hollered a proposal of marriage. Sue agreed on 2 conditions. First, Bill had to buy her a wedding dress with a bustle, and second, he had to let her ride Lightning to the ceremony. The first request was easy. Bill galloped to Dallas and bought back the fanciest bustle dress in the city. Sue's second request was not quite so simple. Although Slewfoot Sue was a first-rate rider, the moment her bustle touched the saddle, she was blasted skyward. Sue soared around the moon and began the longest descent to earth. She landed squarely on her bustle, but quick as Bill was, he couldn't get to her before she bounced back into outer space. Time and time again, Sue hit the ground and rocketed back towards the stars. Sue probably would have sailed back and forth forever if Bill hadn't lassoed a tornado to help him count his bouncing bride. The pair of them clung to the careening storm until it blew itself out somewhere over California. To Bill's amazement, he and Sue landed on top of his ma and pa's wagon. Bill couldn't believe his kinfolk were still searching for a home site. He told them he could spend the rest of their days roaming, but they'd never find a place to equal Texas. Everybody returned to Bill's ranch for a wedding and a family reunion. And today, their descendants are still there, happily herding cattle. Well, boys and girls, wasn't that a fun story? It was talking about sometimes we don't know what's so good because we don't take time to look at it. His family kept going. They didn't think Texas was right for them. They never took the time just to stay a little while and look what was good for it. Boys and girls, during this time, let's be proud of what we have. Look around. We could always want something better, but let's appreciate what we have. That's a good lesson from good old Pecos Bill. Well, I hope you liked our story today. As always, we'll see you soon. Bye.